The mysterious prisoner of the prison was quiet, too quiet. Far away from any planet, it floated in the darkness of space. This was no ordinary prison. Only the most dangerous criminals were sent here. Every alien guard in the prison knew one rule: never go near cell number 7. Cell number 7 was at the very end of a long, dark hallway. No windows, no light, just silence. But even from far away, everyone could feel something strange about that cell. Some guards said the air near the cell felt heavy. Some said they could hear whispers when they passed by. And some swore they saw red eyes glowing in the dark. Who was inside? No one really knew. But everyone feared her. One day, a human soldier arrived at the prison. His name was Ryan. He was young, brave, and very curious. He stood straight in front of the alien commander and saluted. "Welcome, human," the commander said coldly. "You will guard this prison now. But remember, never go near cell number 7. That prisoner is different." Ryan frowned. "Different how?" The commander's eyes narrowed. "She's not like us, not like you. She's dangerous. More dangerous than all the others here." Ryan nodded. But inside, he was already thinking about cell number 7. That night, Ryan walked through the prison halls. The other guards ignored him. They were busy watching the cells, checking doors, writing reports. But Ryan's eyes kept turning toward the dark hallway. Cell number 7. Why was everyone so afraid? He decided to see for himself. Quietly, he slipped away. Step by step, he walked down the hallway. The lights grew dim. The air felt cold. It was so quiet he could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, he stopped in front of the cell. There was no window, just a thick metal door with a small slot. He leaned closer. He thought he heard breathing. He bent down and looked through the slot. At first, he saw nothing, just darkness. Then, 2 eyes opened. Bright, silver eyes. They stared at him. Ryan jumped back, his heart pounding. A soft voice came from the darkness. "So? They sent a human this time." Ryan froze. She could speak. "You can talk?" he asked. A quiet laugh echoed from inside the cell. "Of course, I can do many things." Ryan didn't know what to say. He was not supposed to be here. He should leave. But something about her voice made him stay. Who are you?" he finally asked. For a moment, there was silence. Then, she said very softly, "My name is Lyra." A name sent a chill down his spine. It sounded dangerous, but also sad. "What are you?" Ryan whispered. There was another laugh. This time it was colder. "You're brave to ask that. Braver than the others." Ryan swallowed hard. "I'm just curious. Why do they fear you so much?" She moved closer to the door. He could see her now, just a faint shape in the dark. She had long black hair and pale skin that almost glowed. "You shouldn't be here, human," she said. "Go back before it's too late." Ryan shook his head. "No, I want to know." Her silver eyes flashed. "You want to know?" she whispered. "Fine. But once you know, you'll never sleep again." Ryan felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. He took a step closer. "Tell me," he said. Lyra leaned her face close to the slot. Her eyes locked onto his. And then she smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was sharp, knowing, and full of secrets. "You're not like the others," she said softly. "They're all afraid. But you're different." Ryan didn't move. He didn't know why, but he couldn't look away. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. Then she whispered something he didn't understand, words that sounded ancient. Heavy, the air around him felt colder. The walls seemed to shake just a little. Ryan's breath came out in clouds. What are you doing?" he asked, shivering, but she only smiled wider. You'll see, she said. Then the lights in the hallway flickered and went out. Ryan stood in the dark, his heart beating fast. When the lights came back, she was standing at the door. Her hand was pressed against the metal, and for a moment, just a moment, he thought he saw cracks forming where her fingers touched. She leaned closer and whispered, "One last thing. You shouldn't have come here, human. But now, it's too late to leave." Ryan backed away slowly, his mind racing. Who was this? Prisoner? Why was she here? And why did he feel like she was smiling at him in the dark? He turned and hurried back down the hallway. But even as he left, he could still feel her eyes watching him, and her voice, soft and dangerous, echoed in his mind. Too late to leave. The forbidden conversation. Ryan could not sleep that night. Even back in his small room, far from the prison halls, he could still feel her eyes watching him. He could still hear her words, soft but dangerous. Too late to leave. He lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the silver-eyed prisoner in cell number 7. Who was she? Why did she seem so calm? Why did she smile at him like she already knew what he was going to do next? When morning came, Ryan tried to forget about her. He walked the halls like the other guards. He checked the doors. He signed the papers. He followed the rules. But his mind was somewhere else. Every time he passed that dark hallway, he could feel a strange pull, like something was calling him. By the end of the day, he couldn't resist anymore. He waited until no one was watching. Then he walked quietly down the hallway again. This time he didn't hesitate. He went straight to cell number 7. He leaned close to the small slot in the door. At first, nothing. Then, "You came back," a voice said softly. Ryan froze. She was already waiting for him. He didn't answer right away. He just stared through the slot. This time, she was sitting on the floor of her cell, her knees drawn to her chest, her long hair falling over her face. But even like that, she looked powerful, calm, dangerous. "You shouldn't keep coming here," she said without looking up. "They'll notice, and when they do, they'll kill you." Ryan swallowed, but stayed where he was. "I want answers," he said. Finally, she looked up. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "Answers?" she repeated, almost amused. "You don't know what you're asking for." "I want to know why they fear you," Ryan said firmly. "And why I don't." She tilted her head, studying him. For a long moment, she just stared. Then, slowly, she stood up and moved closer to the door. Her fingers traced the cracks in the metal that she had left the night before. "They fear me," she whispered, "because they made me. And then they couldn't unmake me." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra leaned so close her breath fogged the slot. "They built me to fight their wars," she said. "I was there. Perfect weapon, stronger than their soldiers, faster than their machines, smarter than their generals." Her voice grew colder, sharper. "I won them battles they thought they would lose. I burned their enemies to dust. I broke planets in half." Ryan felt the air grow heavier with each word. "And then?" he asked quietly. Lyra's eyes darkened. "And then I refused." "You refused what?" "To kill," she said simply. "They wanted me to destroy another world, full of children, full of life. I said no." Ryan stared at her through the slot, hardly breathing. "And for that," she continued, "they locked me here, because they couldn't control me anymore. And because they're too afraid to kill me." Her smile returned, cold and knowing. "Do you understand now, human? I am not a prisoner. I am their shame." Ryan shook his head slowly. "They can't keep you here forever," he said. Lyra laughed softly. Oh, they can try. But even the strongest chains break eventually. There was a long silence between them. Ryan could feel her eyes searching him, reading him like a book. Then she asked, "Why are you really here, human? You say you want answers, but that's not all." Ryan hesitated. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know himself. Maybe it was the way she spoke. Maybe it was the fire in her eyes. Or maybe it was because, for the first time since he came to this cold prison, he felt alive when she looked at him. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I don't think you belong in there." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "And what would you do about it? Would you free me?" Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it again. He hadn't thought that far ahead. Could he really help her escape? Could he really stand against the others? Her voice cut through his thoughts. "You're braver than them," she said softly. "They fear me because they believe the stories. But you're curious. That makes you dangerous." Ryan stared at her. And for the first time, he noticed her hand pressed against the door. Again, a thin line of glowing cracks spread slowly under her fingers. "You shouldn't do that," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I won't." "Not yet." Then she stepped back into the shadows. Ryan suddenly realized his chest felt tight, like the air in the hallway was thicker now. You have power," he said. "Why don't you just break out?" Her answer came from the dark, soft but sharp. "I could, but if I leave now, I leave alone. And I don't want to leave alone." Ryan froze at her words. He understood what she meant. She was waiting for someone for him. Before he could reply, heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Ryan jumped back as another guard turned the corner. "Hey!" The guard barked. "What are you doing here?" Ryan straightened, trying to hide his fear. "Just checking the locks." The guard glared at him. "Stay away from this cell? Do you want to die?" Ryan nodded quickly and walked away. But as he left, he risked one last glance at the cell. Through the slot, he saw her silver eyes, glowing in the dark. And this time, she whispered just loud enough for him to hear. "When you're ready, human, come back. We have much to plan." Ryan felt a shiver run down his spine. Even as he walked back to his room, her words stayed with him. He didn't know what she wanted from him. He didn't know if he could trust her. But deep inside, he knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back now. Asterisk the weapon story. Next few days were strange for Ryan. He tried to focus on his duties, patrolling the halls, checking the cells, standing guard. But his mind was always somewhere else. Every time he passed that dark hallway, he felt her presence. He felt her eyes watching him. And every night, when he closed his eyes, he heard her voice whispering, "When you're ready, human, come back." At first, he told himself he wouldn't go back. It was too dangerous. The other guards already suspected him, but curiosity burned inside him like fire. He needed to know more about her. Why was she like this? Why did she say she was a weapon? And why, when she looked at him, did he feel like she was holding back, waiting for something? On the fourth night, Ryan couldn't resist anymore. The prison was quiet, as always. Most of the guards were asleep. He walked down the dark hallway again, his footsteps echoing softly. When he reached her cell, she was already there, standing close to the door, waiting for him. "You're late," she said softly. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Ryan swallowed. "I wasn't sure if I should come." She tilted her head and smiled, that same sharp, knowing smile. "But you came anyway. That's what matters." Ryan leaned closer to the slot. "I want to know the truth," he said quietly. "All of it." Her expression darkened. "You won't like the truth," she warned. "I don't care," he said. "I need to know." For a moment, she just watched him, as if measuring him. Then she sat down on the cold floor, her back against the wall. She spoke slowly, her voice low but clear. "They built me," she began, "a long time ago, longer than you can imagine." Ryan frowned. "Who built you?" "The Dominion," she said. "The same aliens who run this prison. They took me. When I was a child, they said I was special." Her eyes grew distant, as if she was seeing something far away. "They broke me into pieces. And then they rebuilt me. They put things inside me. Metal, fire, darkness. They gave me strength no one else had. They made me into their perfect weapon." Ryan felt a chill down his spine. What did they make you do?" he asked. Her lips tightened. "They made me kill. Again and again. Entire armies. Entire cities. Entire planets. I fought their wars. I burned their enemies. They cheered for me like I was a hero, but I wasn't." Her fingers curled into fists. "I was a monster." Ryan shook his head. "No, you were forced." Her eyes flashed. "No, don't lie to yourself, human. I could have stopped sooner, but for a while I liked it." That admission hung heavy in the air. Ryan didn't know what to say. Lyra continued, her voice quieter now. "They told me I was saving the galaxy, that I was bringing peace, but it was all a lie. They wanted power, and they used me to get it." She leaned her head back against the wall, her eyes closing. "I believed them, until they sent me to destroy a world full of children. They told me it was necessary, but when I stood there, looking at those small faces, I couldn't." She opened her eyes again, and now there was pain in them, raw and deep. "I refused. I turned my power against them instead. I burned their fleet. I shattered their armies. I thought they would kill me, but they couldn't. They locked me in this cell instead." Her voice grew sharp. "They're afraid, not just of what I've done, but of what I might still do." Ryan stared at her, speechless. He wanted to say something, but before he could, she leaned closer to the slot and whispered, "And now you know, human, I am not just a prisoner. I am a weapon they can't control." Ryan stepped back, slightly, feeling the weight of her words. But even though the story was terrifying, he didn't feel afraid of her. If anything, he felt sorry for her. And something else, too. Something he couldn't name yet. "They can't keep you here forever," he said softly. Lyra laughed, but there was no joy in it. "That's what they think. But they're wrong. I've been waiting." "Waiting for what?" Ryan asked. Her silver eyes locked on his. "For the right moment. For the right person." Ryan's breath caught in his throat. "Me?" he whispered. Her smile returned, small but certain. "Maybe," he swallowed. "What do you want me to do?" Her answer came quickly, her voice calm but full of fire. "I want you to help me finish what I started. I want you to help me end them." Ryan froze. "You mean escape? Fight back?" "Yes," she said simply. "I can break these walls. But once I'm out, they'll send everything they have to stop me. I need someone on the outside, someone who knows their plans, someone who isn't afraid." Ryan felt his heart pounding in his chest. I don't know if I can." "Yes, you can," she interrupted. "You're already different. You came back. You listened." She leaned even closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're not like them. That's why I chose you." Ryan's hands trembled slightly. He knew. She was right. He couldn't walk away now. Even if it meant risking everything, he couldn't. "I'll help you," he said finally. Her smile widened, and for the first time, it wasn't cold. It was real. "Good," she said. "Then listen carefully. This is what you need to do. And as she began to explain her plan, Ryan felt the weight of his decision settle over him. He didn't know if he would survive. He didn't know if he would succeed. But he knew one thing. There was no turning back. The escape plan the next day, Ryan woke up with a strange feeling in his chest, a mix of fear and determination. Lyra's voice still echoed in his mind. Listen carefully. This is what you need to do. All night, she had whispered her plan through. The slot in her cell door, step by step. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight, as if she had already played this game 100 times in her head. Now it was his turn to play his part. Ryan sat at the edge of his bed, rubbing his face. He knew he was crossing a line. If the guards or the commander found out what he was planning, they wouldn't just kill him. They would erase him. Like he never existed, but something inside him had already changed. There was no going back. Ryan's first task was simple, but dangerous. He had to learn the guard schedules. Who came to the hallway at what time? When were the cameras checked? Where were the weak spots? For the next 2 days, he watched and listened carefully. He memorized every shift change. He noticed which guards were lazy, which ones were strict, and which ones liked to take long breaks at night. He returned to Lyra and reported what he saw. Through the slot, she nodded, her silver eyes glinting in the dark. Good, she whispered. You're learning fast. That's what we need. On the 3rd day, Ryan stole his first item. It was just a small security card, taken from a sleeping guard's belt during his break. He slipped it into his sleeve and returned it before anyone noticed. But it was enough for Lyra to see he was serious. Braver than I thought, she murmured when he told her. Good, you'll need to be. That night, she told him the rest of the plan. You'll come to me during 2nd shift, she explained. When the cameras are blind for 2 minutes. That's when you unlock the door. Ryan stared at her through the slot. And then? What? Lyra smiled faintly. Then you stay out of my way. He swallowed hard. You really think you can fight your way out? Her smile turned sharp. Ryan, she said, I don't think. I know. But things did not stay quiet for long. On the 4th day, Ryan felt eyes on him. The alien commander began watching him more closely. When Ryan passed by, the commander's gaze followed him. When Ryan signed papers, the commander checked them twice. And that night, as Ryan walked toward the dark hallway, another guard stepped in front of him. Where are you going? A guard demanded. Ryan forced himself to stay calm. Just checking the locks, he said casually. The guard squinted at him, suspicious. You've been spending a lot of time here lately. Ryan shrugged. Just doing my job. The guard didn't move. For a moment, Ryan thought the man might call the commander. But then the guard muttered something and walked away. Ryan waited until the footsteps faded before slipping to cell number 7. When Lyra saw his face, she chuckled quietly. They're starting to notice you, she said. Ryan gritted his teeth. I know, but it's fine. The plan still works. Lyra tilted her head. That depends, she murmured, on whether you can stay clever, or if you crack under the weight. Ryan leaned closer to the slot. Don't worry about me, he said. Just tell me what happens after I open the door. Her silver eyes gleamed in the dark. When you open the door, she said, everything changes. I won't hold back anymore. Ryan frowned. What does that mean? Lyra just smiled. You'll see. The night before the escape, Ryan couldn't sleep. His hands shook as he packed what little he needed. A stolen P-card, a hidden knife, and a tiny map of the prison he had sketched from memory. He stood at his window, staring out at the endless stars. His thoughts raced. Why was he doing this? Why risk everything for her? But deep down, he already knew the answer. Because when she looked at him, she didn't see just a human. She saw something more. And she made him believe it too. Finally, the day came. Ryan waited until second shift. The cameras went blind for 2 minutes, just as Lyra promised. The guards were busy with a fight in the main hall. A perfect distraction, she said she would arrange. He walked quickly down the dark hallway, his heart pounding louder with each step. When he reached cell number 7, she was already standing. At the door, waiting, smiling. "Are you ready?" He whispered. Her voice was calm. "I've been ready for years." Ryan swiped the keycard. There was a loud click, and the heavy door creaked open. For the first time, he saw her clearly. Lyra stepped out of the shadows, tall and graceful, her long black hair falling over her shoulders. Her silver eyes burned like molten metal. And now he could see the faint lines of light under her skin, cracks where energy glowed softly, like a fire waiting to escape. She stretched her arms, flexing her fingers as if waking from a long sleep. Then she looked at him and said, "Stay. Behind me." Before Ryan could respond, an alarm blared through the prison. The lights turned red. Doors slammed shut. Voices shouted in the distance. "They know," Ryan said, panic rising in his throat. Lyra turned her head, her smile dark and fierce. "Let them come." In the distance, heavy footsteps thundered toward them. Guards in black armor appeared at the end of the hallway, weapons ready. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, but full of power. "Time to remind them," she said, "why they locked me away." She raised her hands, and the air around her began to hum. The walls shook. The floor cracked under her feet, and the guards froze in place, terror filling their eyes. Ryan watched, stunned, as light burst from her skin, and the metal of the hallway began to warp and bend under her power. The commander's voice roared over the speakers. "Stop her. Kill them both." Lyra's eyes flashed as she whispered, "Try." With one swift motion, she unleashed a wave of energy that threw the guards back like paper. The hallway lights exploded, and smoke filled the air. She turned to Ryan, her smile softer. "Now, come, human," she said. "We have a ship to catch." Ryan nodded, his legs shaking, but his resolve stronger than ever. He followed her through the chaos, through the screams, through the storm she created. And as they ran, he realized something. He wasn't just helping her escape. He was escaping, too, from everything he thought he was. Asterisk the chase, the prison, was no longer quiet. The air shook with alarms. Red lights flashed on the walls. Sirens howled through every hallway. Ryan ran behind Lyra as fast as he could. His breath came out in sharp gasps, but he didn't dare stop. Behind them, the sound of footsteps grew louder. Dozens of guards chasing, shouting, firing their weapons. Ahead of him, Lyra moved like a shadow of fire. Her black hair whipped behind her as she sprinted, her silver eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her hands crackled with strange energy, bending doors, melting locks, throwing obstacles aside. "Stay close," she called over her shoulder. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "They'll send their best after us now. Don't fall behind." Ryan swallowed his fear and kept running. He could already hear the difference. These weren't the usual guards anymore. These were something else. They turned a corner and found the main hall blocked by a massive steel gate. Dozens of alien soldiers stood on the other side, waiting. Weapons aimed, Ryan skidded to a stop, his heart sinking. "We're trapped," he shouted, but Lyra didn't stop. She walked straight up to the gate. The soldiers hesitated as she raised her hand. The air shimmered around her fingers. A moment later, the entire gate groaned, twisted, and shattered into pieces. The soldiers fired, but their shots dissolved into sparks before reaching her. With one sweeping motion, she sent a wave of force across the room, slamming the soldiers against the walls like rag dolls. Ryan could only stare as she walked through the wreckage, her expression calm, almost bored. "This is nothing," she murmured Dot, but as they reached the next hallway, Ryan felt it, a change in the air, colder, heavier. Lyra slowed down, her eyes narrowing. "They've sent the hunter," she said quietly. Ryan froze. "The what?" She glanced back at him, her expression serious now. "The hunter," she repeated. "The only one they ever made for me." Before Ryan could ask what she meant, the lights ahead dimmed. A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. Black armor, glowing red eyes, and sharp blades instead of hands. The hunter moved without a sound. Even Lyra stopped walking. "Stay back," she told Ryan. The hunter lunged. What followed was chaos. Lyra met the hunter's strike with her own hands. Energy sparked and screamed between them as they clashed. The walls cracked. The floor shattered. Sparks and smoke filled the air as their blows shook the hallway like thunder. Ryan stumbled back, shielding his face from the heat. He watched as Lyra was thrown to the ground, then rose again, her eyes blazing with fury. The hunter was fast. It struck her over and over, pushing her back. For the first time, Ryan saw her bleeding, faint trails of glowing light where the blades cut her skin. Still, she didn't stop. "You were always their favorite," she spat at the hunter. "But you're still just a dog." The hunter lunged again, and this time she caught it by the throat. Her fingers dug into its armor, and with a snarl, she ripped the metal apart. The hunter let out a sharp, metallic scream and fell, but Lyra staggered too, holding her side where a deep cut glowed faintly. Ryan rushed to her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, though her breath was heavy. "I told you," she said. "They fear me for a reason." The path ahead was now open, but the alarm still wailed. The guards were regrouping behind them. Ryan and Lyra ran again, turning corner after corner, dodging bursts of gunfire, ducking under collapsing beams. They reached a wide platform at the edge of the prison. Below them stretched open space, a landing bay full of ships. But the bay was crawling with soldiers now, their weapons ready, their commanders standing at the front. Ryan skidded to a stop, his stomach sinking. "There's too many," he said. Lyra stood tall beside him, her eyes cold and sharp. "Then I'll have to remind them," she murmured. She stepped forward, raising her hands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, light exploded from her body, brighter than the sun. The soldiers cried out, covering their faces. The air shook as her power swept across the bay, knocking soldiers off their feet, tearing weapons from their hands, bending ships like paper. Ryan shielded his eyes, heat washing over him. When the light faded, the bay was silent. The soldiers lay unconscious or scattered. Smoke curled from the broken floor. Lyra lowered her hands slowly, her shoulders rising and falling with each breath. She glanced at Ryan, her expression fierce but calm. "Find us a ship," she said softly. Ryan blinked and nodded quickly. He ran toward the nearest craft, a sleek black shuttle. The hatch opened under her touch, and they both climbed inside Dot as the engines roared to life. Ryan sat in the pilot's chair, his hands trembling. Behind him, Lyra stood at the window, watching as more soldiers rushed into the bay. Too late. "They'll follow us," Ryan said. Lyra's silver eyes narrowed as she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let them try," she whispered. The ship lifted off, breaking through the roof of the bay. Ryan felt his stomach drop as the stars opened up before them. Behind them, the prison grew smaller and smaller, just a dark shadow against the stars. Now, but even as they sped away, Ryan knew it wasn't over. He could feel it in the way Lyra stood, quiet, watchful, her eyes still glowing faintly. She was already planning the next move. As the ship entered deep space, Ryan finally let out a breath. He glanced back at her. "What now?" he asked. Lyra didn't answer right away. She looked out at the stars, her voice low but full of fire. "Now," she said, "we finish what I started." Ryan nodded slowly. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing. The real fight was just beginning. Asterisk, the final stand. The stars outside the ship streaked into long white lines as they entered hyperspace. But even as the ship raced away from the prison, Ryan felt no relief. Behind him, they had left destruction, broken walls, fallen soldiers, and the hunter's shattered body. But ahead of them, something worse waited. Lyra stood at the front of the ship, her silver eyes fixed on the black horizon. Her hair floated slightly in the faint hum of energy that still clung to her body. Even now, after everything, she seemed calm, but Ryan could feel the storm inside her. "Where are we going?" he finally asked, breaking the silence. Lyra didn't turn to look at him. "To finish it," she said softly. "To face the Dominion." Ryan swallowed. "You mean we're going straight to them?" Her eyes narrowed. "Yes, to their heart, to the place where they built me." Ryan's stomach tightened. "And then what?" Her lips curved into a faint, cold smile. "Then I burn it to the ground." Hours later, their ship dropped out of hyperspace. Ahead of them floated a giant space station, black as obsidian, surrounded by fleets of warships and glowing defense satellites. It was massive, alive with lights, like a city in the stars. Ryan stared at it, his mouth dry. How can we even get close to that?" Lyra glanced back at him, her eyes fierce and steady. "They'll let us in," she said. Ryan frowned. Why would they? But before he could finish, an angry voice crackled over the comms. "Unidentified ship. Stop engines immediately. Prepare to be boarded." Ryan's hands hovered over the controls, but Lyra placed her glowing fingers on his shoulder. "Don't move," she murmured. On the comms, another voice spoke now, colder, more dangerous. "Lyra, you've come back." Ryan froze. They knew her. They expected her. "Yes," she replied, her voice sharp. "I'm home." The ship was pulled into the station by giant magnetic arms. When the hatch opened, they were greeted by rows of heavily armed soldiers, their weapons all trained on her. In the center stood a tall figure, the High Commander. His black armor gleamed under the lights. His face was pale and hard. "You should have stayed in your cell," he said. Lyra stepped off the ship, her head held high. "You should have finished me when you had the chance," she replied. Ryan followed her cautiously, staying behind her. Every soldier in the room flinched when she passed, though their guns never wavered. The High Commander sneered. "You've caused quite a mess, Lyra, but this ends now." Lyra's smile was cold and dangerous. "Yes," she said, "it ends. And then—" She moved. What happened next was like nothing Ryan had ever seen. The room exploded into chaos as Lyra unleashed her power. Light erupted from her hands, cracking the floor, bending the walls, throwing soldiers into the air. Their weapons melted in their hands. The High Commander shouted orders, but his voice was drowned out by the roar of her fury. Ryan ducked behind a pillar as the battle raged around him. Blinding flashes of energy lit up the station. The soldiers tried to stop her, but every time they attacked, she threw them back, stronger than before. The High Commander finally drew his own weapon, a long black blade that shimmered with dark energy. He charged at her, roaring in rage. Lyra met him in the center of the room. Their clash shook the walls. Sparks and blood sprayed into the air as they fought, her silver light against his dark blade. Ryan could only watch in awe and horror as the two most powerful beings he had ever seen struck each other over and over, neither giving in God at one point. The High Commander slashed her shoulder, and she stumbled, the first time Ryan had ever seen her falter. But she caught herself, her eyes blazing brighter than ever. "You made me," she hissed, her voice sharp with pain and fury. "And now I unmake you." With a deafening cry, she threw everything she had into one final strike. The light from her body exploded outward like a star going supernova. The High Commander screamed as his blade shattered and his body disintegrated into dust. When the light faded, the room was silent. The soldiers lay scattered, unconscious. The walls were cracked and smoking, and Lyra stood in the center, breathing hard, her body glowing faintly, her eyes still fierce. Ryan slowly stepped out from behind the pillar, his hands shaking. He walked up to her, his voice low and full of, "Oh, you did it?" Lyra turned her head slightly, looking at him with a tired smile. "Yes," she whispered, "it's over." But then her eyes darkened. "No," she corrected herself. "It's only just begun." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" She turned toward the giant windows of the station, looking out at the fleet of Dominion warships still circling outside. Her silver eyes narrowed. "They won't stop," she said. "They'll keep coming. This was just one battle." Ryan stepped closer. "Then, what now?" Her smile returned, but full of quiet determination. "Now," she said, "we fight them all." And as the two of them stood in the broken room, surrounded by silence and smoke, Ryan realized something. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was his, too. The Dominion would come for them. But he would stand with her until the very end. The final stand, the Dominion station loomed in the darkness like a black sundot as Ryan stared out of the ship's window. He felt small for the first time. This was no ordinary station. It was alive with energy, bigger than any city he had ever seen, and it was waiting for them. Lyra stood at the front of the ship, silent. Her silver eyes reflected the faint glow of the station. Her hair floated slightly, stirred by the invisible energy that already surrounded her. She had said very little since they left the prison, but Ryan could feel it. The storm inside her was growing. He swallowed, his hands tightening on the controls. "Are you sure we can win this?" he asked. Lyra turned to him slowly, her gaze steady and unshakable. "I didn't come here to win," she said quietly. "I came here to finish it." The Dominion fleet closed in around them. Warships as big as mountains moved into position, their weapons glowing. A deep voice came over the ship's combs, cold and heavy. "Lyra, you've returned to die." Ryan glanced at her. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "No," she replied, "to set fire." The fleet opened fire, blinding light and deafening. Sound filled the ship as lasers and missiles rained down. Ryan swerved and rolled the ship as best he could, but there were too many. One shot struck their left engine, and the ship spun wildly. "Lyra," he called, but she was already moving. She pressed her hands to the wall of the ship, her skin glowing brighter and brighter, her silver eyes shining like two suns. Metal under her hands melted, reshaping itself, repairing the ship mid-flight. "Keep flying," she ordered. "I'll handle them." Ryan gritted his teeth and flew straight at the station. Behind them, everything changed. Lyra stepped to the rear of the ship, opened the hatch, and leapt into open space. Ryan gasped. He turned his head just in time to see her, blazing against the blackness, moving faster than any ship, her body surrounded by a storm of light. She struck the nearest warship like a falling star, tearing through its hull. The ship cracked and exploded in silence, scattering debris. Then she moved to the next one, and the next. A dance of destruction, graceful and terrifying. The comms hissed again. "You can't win, Lyra," the Dominion's high commander's voice growled. "You're still ours." Her laughter carried across the comms, sharp and cold. "Not anymore." Ryan piloted the ship into the hangar of the station. The moment he landed, soldiers swarmed the area, weapons aimed. But Ryan stood frozen dot above the hangar. Through the transparent roof, he saw her, Lyra, tearing through. Ships like paper, leaving trails of fire and light. But even she was slowing down now. The fleet was too big, too many ships. And suddenly, something bigger came, the Hunter. A new ship emerged from the station, blacker than night, silent, its presence heavier than everything else combined. Ryan's breath caught in his chest. "That's—" he whispered. The high commander's voice cut in again. She was always afraid of this one, and she should be. The Hunter's ship opened, and the creature stepped out. A giant figure, taller than anyone Ryan had seen, armored in living metal, its eyes red and cold. Its voice boomed through the station like thunder. "Lyra, your story ends now." Lyra stopped in midair. Her light flickered. Ryan's stomach sank as he watched her. For the first time, hesitate. The Hunter charged. The clash shook the station. Lyra met the Hunter in a storm of light and shadow. Their blows sent shockwaves through the hangar. Metal bent and walls cracked as they fought. A brutal, fast, merciless fight. Ryan couldn't look away, but he saw it. The Hunter was winning. It was faster than her now, stronger. Its claws slashed deep into her side, leaving glowing wounds. She stumbled, but caught herself. Barely. The Hunter spoke again, its voice cruel. "You were made to serve. You cannot destroy what made you." Lyra's breath came heavy. Her eyes dimmed, just a little. Ryan's heart pounded. He couldn't just stand there. He picked up a discarded weapon, though his hands trembled. He ran to the edge of the platform and shouted, "Lyra!" Her head turned. Just for a second, and she saw him. Something changed in her eyes. They flared to life again, brighter than before. She whispered, barely loud enough for Ryan to hear, "You're why." And then she unleashed everything. The entire station blazed with light. Lyra's body became a star, her energy exploding. Outward, she wrapped her arms around the Hunter and pulled it close, her voice low and steady. "You don't get to write my ending." The Hunter roared and struck at her, but too late. Her energy shattered it from the inside. The Hunter's body broke apart, piece by piece, until nothing remained but dust. The station groaned and shook, alarm screaming. Ryan covered his eyes from the blinding light. When the light finally faded, the Hunter was gone. And Lyra fell too. Her knees. Ryan ran to her side. Her skin was cracked with light, her breath shallow. But her silver eyes still glowed faintly. "You did it," he whispered, kneeling beside her. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "No," she said weakly. "We did it." Ryan reached out and held her hand. "You're going to make it," he said, though his voice shook. Her fingers squeezed his, surprisingly strong. "Don't let them rebuild me," she whispered. "Don't let them." Ryan nodded, tears stinging his eyes. "They won't." She leaned her head against his shoulder, her voice barely a breath now. "Good, then it's over." But, even as she said it, the station shook again, and Ryan looked up, realizing something. The Dominion fleet was still coming. He glanced back at Lyra, her eyes opened just a little, her silver gaze meeting his. Then again, she murmured, "Maybe not." Her faint smile held something he couldn't name. Defiance, hope, and something more. And then she closed her eyes. Ryan sat there for a long moment, holding her hand. The room around them was silent, broken, glowing with the aftermath of her power. Finally, he stood, still holding her hand, and looked out the window at the incoming fleet dot, and for the first time, he didn't feel afraid. He felt ready. The Freedom the Dominion fleet was still coming. Through the cracked windows of the station, Ryan watched their black ships move into position, their weapons glowing brighter and brighter. The High Commander was dead. The Hunter was destroyed. But the Dominion was not finished. Ryan stood next to Lyra's quiet body, his hands still wrapped around hers. Her skin was warm and faintly glowing, but she hadn't moved since her final strike. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes closed. It was hard to tell if she was still conscious, or even alive. For a long time, Ryan just stared at her, unsure what to do next. He had helped her escape. He had helped her fight. But now, it felt like everything was falling apart anyway. The station shook again as more explosions thundered outside. The Dominion ships began to open fire on the station itself. Pieces of metal rained down from the ceiling. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Ryan finally whispered, "Lyra, if you can hear me, we're not done. Not yet. You said you wanted freedom, remember? So, get up, please." Her fingers twitched faintly in his hand. Suddenly, a new voice echoed through the broken room, cold, mechanical, and cruel. It came from every speaker, every wall. "You cannot win. You cannot escape. You cannot hide. This is the end, Lyra, and for the human, too." Ryan's head snapped up. He looked around wildly. Who are you?" The voice replied, "I am the core. I am the Dominion. And I made her." Ryan's fists clenched. "Then you know what she just did to your hunter." The voice paused, then spoke again. "She destroyed a shadow, but she cannot destroy me." Ryan's jaw tightened. Behind him, he heard Lyra's faint, cracked voice. "You're wrong." Her silver eyes opened, just barely. Her voice was weak, but steady. "I can." Ryan helped her to her feet. Her legs shook, but her eyes were burning again now, brighter than ever. Her skin glowed with thin cracks of light. She stood tall, her hair floating in the energy around her. The voice laughed, a horrible, echoing sound. "You have nothing left. Your power is broken. You are dying." Lyra raised her head. "You still don't understand," she said. "This isn't about me anymore." Ryan looked at her, confused. She glanced at him and smiled faintly. "It's about us." She turned her eyes to the ceiling, where the core systems ran, through thousands of glowing lines and circuits. Her hands rose slowly. The cracks in her skin widened. The air around them shimmered and cracked. Ryan felt the hairs on his arms stand on end. The station shook harder than before, not from weapons, but from her. The Dominion voice roared, "Stop! You will destroy yourself." Lyra's answer was calm and sharp. "Yes." Ryan grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" Her eyes softened as she looked at him, finishing it for good. "No," Ryan said, stepping in front of her. "There has to be another way." But she only smiled, that same knowing, quiet smile he had seen on the first day through the slot in her cell. "Ryan," she whispered, "thank you for reminding me what it feels like to choose." Her light grew so bright, Ryan had to shield his eyes. Her voice echoed around them, but it was no longer weak. It was full of fire, full of life, too. "The Dominion," she cried, "you built me as a weapon. But you made one mistake. You gave your weapon a heart." And with that, she unleashed everything. The station erupted in white light. The core screamed, a mechanical wail of fury and fear, as its circuits overloaded and burst into flames. The Dominion fleet outside shattered under the shockwave. Ship after ship cracked apart and drifted into the void. The station itself split open, light pouring from every surface like a star being born. Ryan fell to his knees, covering his face as the world around him dissolved into brightness and heat. When it finally faded, there was silence. He opened his eyes slowly. The station was gone. A Dominion fleet was gone. Only debris floated in the quiet black of space. Ryan found himself standing on a small fragment of the station, drifting, cracked but stable. He looked around wildly. "Lyra," he shouted. There, at the edge of the platform, she lay, motionless. He stumbled toward her, his hands trembling as he knelt beside her. Her silver eyes were closed, her skin dim and still. But when he touched her hand, it was warm. And then her fingers moved. Slowly, her eyes opened, faint light still glowing deep inside them. "You're alive," Ryan breathed. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Told you. I choose." He helped her sit up. Above them, the stars shone brighter than he had ever seen them. No Dominion ships. No prison. No chains. Just freedom. Lyra looked at him, her voice quiet but steady. "It's done." Ryan smiled at her, tired, bruised, but alive. "Yeah," he said, "it's done." But then she turned, her gaze back to the stars. Her silver eyes narrowed slightly. "No," she whispered, "it's just beginning." Ryan followed her gaze, and his stomach tightened. Far in the distance, faint shadows moved between the stars. Other fleets, other dangers. She stood slowly, her strength returning with each breath. "Others will come," she said. "They always do." Ryan stood next to her, looking at her with quiet determination. "Then we face them, together." She smiled at him, a real smile this time, and took his hand. "Yes," she said softly. Together. The two of them stood on the edge of the broken station, the endless galaxy before them, full of danger, full of mystery, full of hope. And as they turned to find a ship, Ryan realized something. This wasn't just her story anymore. It was theirs. And no Dominion, no army, no darkness was strong enough to stop them now. Together, they were free. And together, they would write the rest.